The termination letter sat on my kitchen table at 9:22 a.m. It said for cause, but it had no specifics. I knew why they fired me. I had seen the file they wanted buried, and Janet Reyes had watched me find it. Pause. I was Evan Cole. I was a senior data manager at Meridian Pharmaceuticals in Boston. I had been there 5 years. My badge ready.col, and my desk was 4B12, 2 cubicles down from Janet's office. Janet Reyes was the head of clinical operations. She wore Hermes scarves and a smile that never reached her eyes. Arthur Grant was our CEO. Marcus Bell was CFO. My official firing date was July 12, 2023. The note said performance deficiencies. The real reason was worse. It started in May when I was cleaning up datasets for Neurolex, Meridian's big brain drug. The FDA submission deadline was August 1st. I was the person who stitched patient logs to lab reports. One night, at 1:14 a.m. on June 3rd, I was cross-checking adverse event reports against the intake logs. I saw a pattern. 3 patients, patient ID 4072, 4098, and 4121, had serious neurological events labeled as unrelated. Their hospital discharge notes said seizure, respiratory arrest, and 1 had died. Their lab values weren't consistent with Meridian's published safety table. I printed the discharge summaries and the echo of my heartbeat filled my apartment. My hands were shaking. I emailed Janet, "Can we review these 3 cases?" Discrepancy in AE coding. It was 6:11 a.m. She replied at 6:27 a.m., "Bring to my office at 9. When I walked into her office at 9:03, she was already on the phone. I set the stack down on her desk. She glanced at the top report and went white. Her hand trembled when she signed for my access badge to be revoked on the HR form later that day. 2 weeks later, HR called me into a meeting. The room was small. The letter said I had fabricated results and mishandled data. I told them the truth. They didn't believe me. They escorted me out at 3:42 p.m. My ID was deactivated mid-sentence. That was the turning point. I was angry, yes. But I was more scared for those 3 patients. I knew Meridian had been fast-tracking Neurolex and hiding adverse events. I also knew I had the only copy of the internal log that showed modifications to adverse event _table v7.xlsx with a timestamp of May 29, 2023, 2:14 a.m. and a note, Record AEs to limit reportables. I had copied it to an encrypted drive before HR barred me. It felt like holding a live grenade. I didn't go to social media. I did what I was trained to do, document everything and stay legal. I found a whistleblower lawyer, Rosa Chen, at Chen & Park. She charged a $5,000 retainer and ran the math. If Meridian had manipulated trial data, the FDA and DOJ would care. We drafted an FDA submission and an SEC complaint. But I wanted more than a regulator filing. I wanted public accountability. Next I called Maya Liu at the Chronicle. I had met Maya briefly at a medical conference 2 years earlier. I left her an encrypted message. I have patient discharge notes, internal emails, and a ledger showing $12.4 million in off-books payments to a contract CRO. Willing to talk. Her reply came in 3 hours. Meet me at 7 p.m., July 28, 2023. Boston Public Library, McKim Room. My chest tightened. I was walking into the arena. Preparation took patience. I cataloged files with precise timestamps. I had adverse event _table v7.xlsx modified May 29, 2023, 2:14 a.m. Email chain, record reports from Marcus Bell to Janet Reyes, timestamp May 30, 2023, 11:02 p.m. Ledger, Project Neurolex off-books $12,400,000 payment to Paladin Clinical, May 2023. 3 patient discharge summaries with dates and hospital signatures. Internal memo titled Post-Approval Narrative, Minimize AE Impact, authored by Arthur Grant on June 5, 2023. I made a timeline, May 29 to June 7 edits, payments, memos. July 12, my termination. I printed everything and organized it into a single folder labeled Neurolex Safety Concerns. I put copies on 2 encrypted drives. One stayed with Rosa Chan. One I gave to Maya. The meeting with Maya was cold and clinical. I slid the USB across the table. "If this is legit," she said, "this will explode." She told me she would verify documents, call 2 independent experts, and run a preliminary story titled Meridian Hid Neurolex Side Effects. I felt relief and dread at the same time. Pause. Meridian's first reaction was denial. They sent a lawyer's letter to the Chronicle and to Rosa, threatening litigation. The day the Chronicle published the scoop, August 15, 2023, 8:04 a.m., I was watching the homepage live. The headline read, "Internal files suggest Meridian suppressed Neurolex trial harms." The piece quoted emails, showed the ledger screenshot, and included analysis from Dr. Helen Park, an independent neurologist, who said the recoded events should have been flagged. The fallout was immediate. The FDA opened an investigation the same afternoon. The SEC issued a subpoena for records. Meridian's stock dropped 42% in 3 trading sessions, market cap evaporated by $1.1 billion. Arthur Grant gave a press conference and said, "We stand by our processes." His voice was thin. 2 weeks later, an internal memo leaked showing Arthur himself had signed off on the language instructing CROs to limit reportables. That memo had a signature block and a timestamp, June 6, 2023, 4:12 p.m. Janet was put on administrative leave. Marcus Bell resigned quietly on September 2, 2023, citing personal reasons. Paladin Clinical confirmed the off-books payment, calling it a research support arrangement. It didn't look good. Patients and families reached out. One voicemail haunted me. "You saved my daughter's life by telling the truth," said a woman named Angela. Her voice broke. She was in the Neurolex trial. I couldn't breathe. I cried in my car in the parking lot of Rosa's office. Meridian sued me for breach of confidentiality. I expected that. Rosa filed a wrongful termination claim. The company filed an injunction to blot publication of certain documents. But the Chronicle had already released redacted copies online. Public pressure mounted. A congressional committee requested documents. The DOJ started looking into potential criminal charges around data falsification. At the SEC hearing on October 12, Meridian was fined $42 million for misleading investors about safety signals in late-stage trials. Arthur Grant was indicted on charges of falsifying trial data. Janet Reyes was forced to testify. In court transcripts, she read a line I never expected her to say under oath: "We discussed coding strategies to reduce adverse event visibility." It was the smoking gun. Marcus Bell later pleaded guilty to facilitating off-books payments and agreed to testify. I did win a settlement. In January 2024, Meridian settled my wrongful termination suit for $350,000 and agreed to a letter of reference. The DOJ indictment led to criminal trials. In June 2024, Arthur Grant was found guilty of record falsification and fined, plus a 2-year suspended sentence while he awaits sentencing on related charges. The company paid $120 million in settlements to affected patients. Paladin Clinical paid $7.5 million penalty and dissolved its contract with Meridian. Newspapers ran front-page stories for weeks. People said I exposed Meridian. They called me brave. Strangers sent me coffee and death threats in equal measure. It wasn't clean revenge. I lost 5 years of steady employment. My mental health took a hit. I had 3 months of insomnia and 2 panic attacks that landed me in the ER. I also lost friends at Meridian who swore they never knew. The day Arthur's indictment was announced, I felt a cold wash of satisfaction. My hands trembled again, but this time from adrenaline that wasn't entirely fear. There were small ironies. The man who recruited me to Meridian, a quiet director named Luis Alvarez, wrote me a note: "You did what I couldn't risk." He forwarded his own resignation 6 months later and started a nonprofit for clinical trial transparency. Rosa took her $35,000 in legal fees and opened a small firm that specialized in whistleblower cases. Maya's story won a National Journalism Award. I started consulting for a nonprofit that audits trial data. But the most haunting moment came months after everything broke. I read the hospital record of patient 4121 again. The note said, "Family informed of drug-related adverse event, wants disclosure." I thought of that family and wondered how many other Meridians were out there, how many companies prioritized profit over people when no one was watching. I had exposed one dark secret, but the system that allowed it still had holes. People asked if I regretted anything. I missed the routine. I missed the easy coffee runs with colleagues. I missed the feeling of being part of a team. But when Angela's daughter sent a photo of her smiling at her high school graduation, I knew I had done the right thing. I had not wanted glory. I had wanted safety. So what did it cost me? $350,000 in settlement, 3 months of terror, and the end of a career path in corporate pharma. What did they lose? Reputation, $162 million in fines and settlements, 2 executives' careers, and the right to market Neurolex without major reform. And the families? They got answers and compensation, but not the years lost. I still think about that morning the letter sat on my table. I still feel the weight of the USB in my palm that night I met Maya. And I still ask myself, if you saw a secret that could kill people, and the people who fired you told you to stay quiet, what would you do? Pause.